Hello everybody, Maven here, and I'm curious, did everyone just forget about the Shinobu's Vow? I know everybody's so tunnel visioned in on the Assassin's Cowl right now that they're forgetting that the Shinobu's Vow exists, especially this season with all of the arc-based artifact mods that really push Shinobu's Vow over the top, makes it better than it ever was, even despite the Jolt nerf. It's crazy. Like, if you can see by the background gameplay, we're able to just spam infinite grenades back to back to back non-stop. So the Assassin's Cowl is a top tier pick. I am not denying that. It is very strong, but not every player out there has, for one, the gear for it, and for two, the skill for it. You know, in higher level content like Grandmasters, for example, some players may struggle to get out there into danger and get the chain of melees going, that like not every player is capable of doing that. With Shinobu's Vow, it is literally a brain dead exotic where you sit back from cover, spamming your grenade button, literally infinite nades all over the room, jolting everything on command is such a solid thing to do, and I think people are forgetting that. So I personally feel that the Shinobu's Vow would be a lot more of a useful pick for a wider variety of players as opposed to the Assassin's Cowl, simply for the ease of use. It's a very easy entry-level thing that anyone can do. It's simply just spamming the nade button. So today we're going over a full build breakdown for it. So let's get to it. Don't forget to drop a like, and I hope you enjoy. Now, reading up on the Shinobu's Vow, it says improve skip grenade, which I don't exactly know what that means, but you get an additional skip grenade charge, and when your skip grenade deals damage, you refund some grenade energy. Now, how much energy is that? Well, I got a clip for you. So we're gonna go up against Cowl and kill him only with abilities, just grenades, and throwing some punches for various reasons we'll get into later. But you can see just how much skip grenade energy you get back when your grenade hits a target. It is a stupid amount. So the reason I was dodging in front of Cowl was because of a mod called Bomber that refunds grenade energy when we dodge, but then I was punching Cowl because of a mod called Impact Induction, which refunds grenade energy. But how effective would our grenade spam be if we weren't able to punch Cowl? Say we were doing a Grandmaster and we needed to keep our distance. So I simulated that scenario here. Imagine Cowl is a tough Grandmaster enemy that we cannot get anywhere near, so we have to keep our distance, and I throw grenades at him, no punching allowed, just dodging and nades, and what do you know, we're still able to spam grenades really effectively. So this is why Shinobu's is so good for tougher content. You can still grenade spam without having to get in the face of enemies. Now I'm going to do a super creative thing and copy paste a clip I already showed in the intro. So if you use the Traveler's Chosen, the grenade spam is just ridiculous. This is just for entertainment, but I'll show it again. So no punching allowed, just grenades and dodges, and you can just spam forever basically. It's kind of crazy. So the Traveler's Chosen is not the worst thing to use with this build, and now it has Osmosis, so it does become an arc weapon when you throw an arc nade, and that has synergy with the arc subclass. But I would honestly stay away from it because these two options are going to be the clear winners here, Osteostriga or Witherhoard, your choice. Now the reason for that is because these two weapons are capable of applying DOT, tick damage. And why is that important? Because if you read up on Jolt on the right side of the screen, the target is energized with destructive arc light. They take additional damage while jolted and chain lightning to nearby targets. So Jolt is similar to Volatile in a way. When you damage them while they're jolted, they'll periodically release little arc explosions that deal additional damage, push them back, and chain to targets. But when you apply a DOT effect like Witherhoard or Osteostriga, it applies that periodic damage for you to trigger Jolt. So I'll demonstrate that here. Throw the arc nade at Cowl, stick him with the Witherhoard, and you can see the Witherhoard's damage numbers ticking and also the Jolt's damage numbers ticking. Plus, when the Jolt procs, it will sometimes stagger him so he stops attacking you, which is a very good thing to have, especially in tougher content. And this little combo does a ridiculous amount of tick damage. As you can see, it takes away 2/3 of his health bar. Now, when you compare that damage to something like a rocket launcher like the Hothead, as you can see here, it takes like exactly 3 rockets to kill Cowl. So one Witherhoard shot plus one skip grenade is doing the damage that 2 rockets deal. It is ridiculously strong tick damage. And it works the same exact way with the Osteo Striga. Throw the Arcanade, jolt him, you shoot a few shots with the Osteo, and again, it does about 2/3 of his health bar. For only half a mag of an SMG, you're doing the damage of 2 rockets. It is absurd. And speaking of rockets, while that insane tick damage is going on, you can actually swap off to a rocket and continue DPSing. It is ridiculously strong for taking down bosses. And more on this role in a bit. So clearly, I would recommend the Witherhoard of the Osteo Striga with this build. Now, if you're using the Witherhoard, a primary I would highly recommend is just whatever arc primary that has Demolitionist, preferably a sidearm or an SMG, because they're the best for ad clear in PvE. I would recommend a sidearm. I've been using the Forgiveness with Demo Adrenaline Junkie, and I love it. There are other options though. And if you are using the Osteo Striga, the number one thing I'd recommend is the Iterative Loop with Lead from Gold Demolitionist, because when you get Demolitionist kills on either a primary or a heavy, it'll only generate 10% grenade energy, but when you do it on a special weapon, like a shotgun, sniper, fusion rifle, or whatever, besides traces, you're going to generate 20% grenade energy, but this is craftable, so if you enhance it, you get 22% grenade energy on final blows, so it is very, very strong for recharging your nade. But the sidearm plus the Witherhoard is definitely the way that I would go personally. Now, another awesome thing about this build is you have 2 anti-champion things built into this build alone, because Overload, arc jolt effects will stun overloads. Obviously, you have infinite of that with the skip grenades. And then you can stun unstops by applying arc blind effects. Now, if you go here, I'm using combination blow, but if you're gonna deal with unstoppable champions, you can swap off to disorienting blow that blinds targets when it hits them. You won't be able to go melee spamming as much, but it's still gonna be good for tougher content where you're not really gonna want to melee as much anyways. So you can just swap that on and there you go. You can deal with 2 champions. All you need to do is deal with barrier champions. This season there is anti-barrier auto rifle. So all you need to do is simply swap off to an arc auto rifle. I'm using either the Dark Decider or the Shadow Price, and there you go. Put on an auto rifle and you can deal with all 3 champions, and you get to keep your insane tick damage Witherhoard combo, and you get to keep your Apex Predator. So it's very, very versatile. And I'll even show some clips from a Nightfall. And one of the things I really love about the skip grenades is how stupidly hard they track. You can throw it at a wall 25 meters away from an enemy and it will fly across the room to find them. Like all of the Seekers. Like that's a very useful effect to have, like in a Grandmaster, for example. You could be way in cover and then just toss it out at a random wall and it will find something. It will find something. It's just, you gotta learn how to throw them sometimes, because, you know, if you just throw them at a very narrow angle at the floor, sometimes they'll just stay on the floor and fizzle out. You gotta kind of bounce them off surfaces in a way. But they're very, very user-friendly to use. So that's just very nice to be able to jolt groups of ads constantly non-stop in tough content. It makes it very, very easy to play the game. And you can even see in some of these clips here in the background gameplay what I'm talking about. And I like this ending scene of the Nightfall where it's like the final stand of the boss, and in this clip here, I literally am non-stop chucking nades. Like, it's hard to see since it's such a hectic scene. But yeah, non-stop throwing nades. I absolutely love it. And before we go over the build, let's go over the artifact, because this is what's really juicing up this build this season. Starting from the top here, electric armor, you stay amplified longer. Now, when you get any bit of amplified at all, it just immediately jumps up to 20 seconds. So it's safe to say you're amplified forever with this build, non-stop. It's like tough to not be amplified, to be honest. And then we go on a Thunderous Retort. Here you get bonus arc super damage when you cast it while critically wounded or while you're amplified, which, like I said, is non-stop. So it's just free damage. And we all know how meta Gathering Storm is right now, especially more so with the Star Eater skills, but Star Eater skills are not. It's still very strong, especially with Thunderous Retort. Then there's Counter Charge. You get Armor Charge when you stun a champion. That's very good where there's overloads because of your overload nades. Then there's Amped Up. You get even tankier while you're amplified, so at all times you just get free resistance. There's Shock and Awe, so your arc final blows while you're amplified summons a lightning strike that jolts targets, and that is happening everywhere. That is what makes it even stronger for ad clear this season. Just turns everything into a Trinity Ghoul. And then we got Lightning Strikes twice. This is the big one. This is the huge one. After throwing an arc grenade, you get increased grenade regenerate, and arc final blows extend the duration of this benefit. So That is how we're able to spam more than ever this season. It was still good in previous seasons, but this just puts it over the top. Now moving on to the subclass. Now the big reason why we're able to stay amplified forever is because of flow state. Defeating a jolted target makes you amplified. And while you're amplified, we're more resilient while dodging, and we get increased reload speed. And that pretty much maxes out your reload on any gun, which is very nice to have up at all times. And then we got lethal current, so dodging makes our next melee attack lunge further and jolt targets. And also damaging a jolted target with a melee attack also blinds them. So if you're gonna deal with unstops, you don't actually need a disorienting blow. The disorienting blow definitely makes it more consistent to stun unstops, but the lethal current can deal with that too. Now moving on to our fragments, we got Spark of Resistance, so we get resist while surrounded, which stacks on top of that artifact mod that gives us resist while amplified, so we're very tanky. Even more so if you can hit 100 resilience. I can only hit 8, unfortunately. Then there's Spark of Shock. This is just a required thing to run whenever you're running Arc. That's just a given. Your Arc grenades jolt targets. It's the reason that we're even doing this build. Now these next two really contribute to your grenade regen because they make Ionic Traces, and Ionic Traces give you ability energy back. So your Arc weapon final blows can have a chance to generate an Ionic Trace. That is the reason why we want to run Arc weapons. And then a Spark of Ions makes it so defeating a jolted target makes an Ionic Trace. So that basically means that like every other kill we do is going to make an Ionic Trace. So it's just a ridiculous amount of ability energy between these two. Now before we break down the mod setup, I want to talk about Ashes to Assets. So let's see how fast we can get back our super. So Ashes to Assets gives you bonus super energy on grenade kills, and despite only having tier 3 intellect, this build generates a stupid amount of super energy between Ashes to Assets and other mods we got. Because this build is also an orb printer. Just take a look at the bottom left side of the screen and look at the amount of orbs we are generating. This is benefiting you greatly, but also your teammates as well. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this could be misinformation, but I believe that Jolt is not exactly a separate entity. I believe that whatever source actually generated the jolt, it is part of that ability. So for example, if our arc grenade jolted a target and that jolt chains off and kills another target, I believe that will still trigger Ashes to Assets because it was part of the jolt that the nade created. Now allow me to demonstrate how we're able to generate so much super energy. It's not only because of Ashes to Assets, but like I said, it's an orb printer build, and there's 3 different ways we can make orbs here. The first of which is going to be Reaper, so we dodge and our next weapon final blow is going to make an orb. Then there is Arc Siphon, so our arc weapon double kill is going to make an orb. So you literally dodge and get a double kill, you make 2 orbs out of that deal. And then we got Firepower, so our grenade final blow is going to make an orb. Now there's going to be orbs scattered everywhere, but thanks to a brand new mod this season called Powerful Attraction, where we dodge and it collects all the orbs in the area, that's just going to give us a giant amount of super energy spontaneously out of nowhere. I believe it scoops up all the orbs within a 15-meter radius. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 15 meters. But yeah, that's just an orb vacuum. And while we're here, let's just finish talking about the mod setup. So because Powerful Attraction is just feeding us all the orbs and giving us armor charge, it's going to be very nice to have Grenade Kickstart. So it just gives us more nade energy back. Some people are under the old impression that Grenade Kickstart and Melee Kickstart and stuff like that don't work when you have multiple charges, but it does. Bungie fixed it like 3 seasons ago, and some people still haven't realized, but it works. And then we have Impact Induction like we went over before. You could also have Heavy-Handed, which would give you even more orbs, but it felt like Impact Induction was too important to our grenade spam plan. Got a couple resist mods here, and then we have Solar Reserves and Scavenger for our Apex Predator. Then we have Innervation and Recuperation. Now this is going to be very, very good with Powerful Attraction because when we're dodging around the place, we're going to be generating health and even more nade energy as well. So it's ridiculous. And then our class item, we got Bomber, Reaper, Powerful Attraction, like I said a million times. Stat-wise, 100 mobility and 100 discipline. 100% is what you want to do, and then try to go 100 resilience if you can, and then always, no matter what you do, run a minimum of 3 intellect. After that, the rest of the stats don't matter. Now, the reason that we are running Apex Predator is because this is an orb printing machine. It's going to take very good advantage of Explosive Light. We're pretty much going to have that up at 6 stacks at all times, very, very easily. However, if you are running the Osteo Shriga, which means that you would be running the iterative loop, and you wanted to also have reserves for that, then you could go with the hothead or like a blowout because it gets demo explosive light, which has ridiculous energy because you're going to have both of those proccing nonstop. So if you wanted to do something like that, you can run arc reserves and arc scavenger to pair with double arc weapons. However, the blowouts ammo reserves really sucks. I don't like it. I'd probably go with the hothead over that. There's also the cold comfort if you wanted to take advantage of that. But I didn't like this too much with this build because you don't really proc Envious Assassin too much, since Envious Assassin only works with weapon final blows, but we're mostly getting grenade final blows with this build. So I definitely preferred the Apex Predator. I felt that Explosive Light and Reconstruction felt very good to have. But of course, there is also the Wendigo, which gets auto-loading Explosive Light, which is excellent as well. Now, I would talk about a gameplay loop if I could, but there really is none. You just throw nades, that's it. Throw a nade, defeat a jolted target to become amplified with flow state, and there you go. You get the chain rolling from there and you don't stop. Now, like I said in the intro, I feel the Shinobu's Vow could be a lot more versatile in more situations than the Assassin's Cowl. Like, don't get me wrong, the Assassin's Cowl could definitely be a heck of a lot stronger when used in the right situation, but if you're doing tough content in an activity where there's idle time, enough time for you to lose your combination blow stacks and your invisibility, and then you'd have to go fight to get that again, it may be a little bit scary to use the Assassin's Cowl. But the Shinobu's Vow, like I said, it's brain dead. You just click a button and you're done. Try to name a situation in the entire game of Destiny 2 where you couldn't use the Shinobu's Vow. I mean, heck, you could even use it in Crucible and you can spam a ton of skip grenades. I mean, I've even used it in a couple flawless cards before. It's not bad. I mean, the only situation in which I would not recommend Shinobu's Vow is probably a raid boss encounter, in which case you just simply swap off the Shinobu's to Star Eaters and you're literally good to go, just like that. Very, very simple. When the encounter's done, you swap back to the Shinobu's and you're good to go. Now, sweaty keyboard warriors out there, don't get mad at me. I'm not using this video to say that Shinobu's Vow is better than Assassin's Cowl. I'm just saying it's more user-friendly and versatile than the Assassin's Cowl. So as always, I will leave a dim loadout link to this build down below in the description if you'd like to give it a try. And if you have any Hunter main friends who might want to give it a try as well, I'd appreciate it if you share this video with them. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment, because interacting with the video in different types of ways like that really helps it out, helps the algorithm. And if you are new here, consider subscribing. Would love to have you here. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.